Dr. Carmen Morrison. I'm a psychologist with over 25 years of working with children and families and really difficult behaviors. But I have to say that the place that I most learned about how hard that is and all of the reality of what we feel as a parent was parenting my own child. She was my firstborn. She was born already fighting the world. Lights bothered her, sounds bothered her. She couldn't nurse. And it took us months before we could even just settle into a routine. By the time she was a toddler, we were already doing behavioral reinforcement charts. And we managed okay until she went to school, but school just added a level of pressure where we were getting calls from the teachers. And she would come home just wired and running around. And we just were at our wits' end. With all of my training and knowledge as a child psychologist, when it came down to figuring out what to do in my own home, I just didn't have answers. I read books, we consulted with specialists, and it still just seemed like it was hit or miss. We got to when she was 9 years old and found a note on my pillow saying, "Mom, what is there worth living for in this miserable life?" And of course, that just brings you to tears. I stayed up all night crying and trying to figure out what could I possibly do differently? What more could I do? There was the day when she got angry because I told her she couldn't do something. And she threw every piece of furniture, lamps, blankets, toys, everything down our stairs. And I just shut the door at the bottom of the stairwell and just sat in the living room, kind of rocking myself as these thuds happened with everything falling down from upstairs. And when I opened the door, there was just this avalanche of stuff falling down on top of me. And it was all I could do to not react. There were the many times when I just locked myself in the bathroom because I knew I was not going to be safe enough for my children in that moment. And then there was the day when she got angry and put her fist through the window on our door and broke it. And those kinds of moments, and you know what I mean, if you're watching this video, those moments inevitably leave us feeling like a failure. They leave us struggling to hang on to hope. The moments when we lose it and aren't what we want to be with our kids leave us feeling shame and even self-hatred. When the moments when we just look at our kid and we go, "I'm not even sure I like this child that I love," then we feel guilty about that. The judgment that we get from others, particularly family members, right, who look at us and tell us all the things that we should be doing that we're not doing, and we know that those aren't going to work for our kid. Those are tough moments as a parent, and that's what brings me to want to do this video. Is I want to offer parents who are living what I have lived, not just hope, but also a way through, because there is a way through. Today, my daughter is an amazing woman. She's an incredible mother. She is successful. She's got a successful relationship. She's doing things that I wasn't really sure she was going to be able to do. And one of the key things that I learned from her was when she went to college, and she called me at one point and she said, "Mom, if you had ever given up on me, I don't think I would have ever made it, because I gave up on myself a lot." And what I learned from that, the key number one message that I want us to all be able to learn together, is that it's the long game when we're working with children who are having such a hard time regulating themselves, whose brains just came into the world not wired for really great regulation. We have to remember that it doesn't happen overnight. There isn't a magic bullet. You already know that. You, like me, have read all the books and consulted with the specialists and done the therapy and the parenting classes, and you still have the behaviors that you're struggling with. So when I say it's the long game, what I'm referring to there is the fact that we know the brain takes 25 years to fully mature, and that's for women. For men, it's 28. And so we're working with that brain for a quarter of a century. And that means that it's a long job, but it means there's also hope. It means those moments where we've blown it and lost control, where things haven't gone well, are not the end of the story. What we come back to, what we end up repeating, is what's going to get wired into that brain long term. And today there is so much hope because we know so much more now about the brain than we did when I was raising my child. And so there's a lot more information available. But one of the things that just breaks my heart is that we have this incredible information about how to work with our brains and how hopeful that is, but it is not yet available for in a way that most of us can put into practice. Most therapists don't even have this knowledge or a way of working with their clients in rewiring brain circuitry. And so that when we think about this long game that we're playing, the second thing that becomes super important, because it's so long, is that we have to find a way to protect ourselves. When we're flying on an airplane, and the flight attendants are up in front and they do their spiel, one of the things that's always struck me is when they say, in the event of an emergency, the oxygen masks will fall down. If you're traveling with a child, put the mask over your own face and then put the mask on the face of your child. And the reason for that is because if we die, if we don't make it, if we can't breathe, our child won't make it either. So the number one priority for us as parents is finding ways to make sure that we are okay. And that's my passion here. That's why I coach parents with kids with difficult behaviors and want to work with you, because I know how critical it is for us to be able to survive in order for our kids to survive. And so finding those ways for us to breathe, first of all, working with the things that trigger us, learning how to rewire our own brain circuitry that we inherited or that we brought with us, our own reactivity. I'm a pretty strong-willed person myself, but I oftentimes remember just crying out to God and saying, you gave her the wrong mother. Like, I am not this even-keeled, sort of placid kind of a person, and she needs that. I'm too reactive. I'm too easily frustrated. And so learning how to work with that in ourselves so that we can be closer to the parent that we really long to be becomes really, really important for us. And so as we're working with ourselves and our own wiring and our triggers and our support network, the third thing that becomes really critical for us to make sure that we're attending to is the rest of the relationships in the home. Because as you know, I am sure that the behaviors that our child is struggling with and that we're struggling with, and our own behaviors that we're struggling with, aren't just about that one child. If we have other children, they're all getting impacted by the fallout. Our marriages or relationships with our parenting partners get really hit, because so often we have different things that we think we should be doing. One parent might be saying, you just need to be harder and crack the whip. And another parent might be saying, but no, we've got to take care of the child's heart and not trigger that or make that worse for them. And then our support person for parenting becomes somebody who's actually against us and us against them as well. So we have to be attending to the rest of the relationships. Again, we can't do that if we're barely able to breathe ourselves. So that's why that has to come first, so that we can do that long game. But we're in for the long game. We find ways, put these in place to care for ourselves, and then we attend to the relationships around that issue in our home, because our homes can go from being a safe haven to a war zone very, very quickly, and sometimes daily. And so we have to get really good at being in a war zone without ending up with PTSD. And that's where we care for ourselves and work through that. The fourth thing that becomes really important is to look at how well we're doing in our home supporting the brain development of our child and the brain health of the rest of us, because so much of reactivity and regulation rests on the capacity of the brain, and that is very tied into what happens in our body with nutrition and gut health. So looking at those issues become really critical. This is a really comprehensive way of looking at a child's defiant, strong-willed behavior. So oftentimes we go to specialists and we read books that tell us about behavior management and reinforcements and rewards and consequences, how to use timeouts effectively, all kinds of things. And that's really only looking at managing the behavior. It's not looking at what we have to do to wire the brain. And that becomes the critical piece that often gets missed. The other thing is that no child with a strong will or defiant behavior is the same as another child. My child was a gifted learning disabled, ADHD, ODD combination, who was bright and creative and persevering and incredible in many other ways. But that was her particular mix. Some kids have learning disabilities, others don't. Others have spectrum disorders and hyperactive diagnoses and anxieties and depressions. And we have these children that have their own little mix of genes and brain wiring. And then we have all different environments. Some of us are single parents. Some of us have gone through a divorce with that same child. Some of us are struggling with stresses in our own lives and really having a difficult time taking care of the needs of our child. I oftentimes think that our child is a unique little universe that nobody has ever explored, and it becomes our job as a parent to be the explorer of that universe and to sort of figure out that puzzle. But that can be really difficult when we don't know what else to do and we've just tried everything. So the one thing that I really want to hold out to you, in addition to that long game, is that we have to be working comprehensively. And honestly, that's really hard to do on our own. And that's why I work to coach parents and to bring all of those areas that are critical for supporting ourselves, our brains, our child, their brains, our family, and our home, to bring those all together and to break that down into a step-by-step plan for you so that you know how to do it and you can do every single step with support. The key thing is that we have to really find doable steps. If they're too big, then we just can't manage them, and then we give up and we feel like even more of a failure. And oftentimes the recommendations we get are too difficult for us because it's just too much or too big or too hard, and we don't know how to break that down. So out of this place of really wanting to help you with the things that I learned in my own journey and the things that I have learned in studying the brain and studying how that works and studying how that changes, is I would love to work one-on-one with you. Now, right now, for all of you watching this video, I'm offering a free one-on-one session for the first 20 people who sign up. That's usually a $250 value. But right now, I just want to get this into your hands. I want to help you start taking some steps that you can feel successful about. And so I would love to be able to help you go from surviving to thriving, from a war zone to a safe haven home. I would love to really work with you in that free call to uncover some hidden challenges, some places that maybe are overlooked, that are sabotaging all of your efforts to change and make a difference. And because you don't know them, they just keep sapping your energy. And so uncovering those become really important. And I really promise you that with that one phone call, I can help you and we can work together to leave feeling re-energized, to feel renewed, and to feel hope that you have a direction that you can go that is different because it's bringing together all the pieces in a personalized step-by-step way that you can implement. I am confident that we can do this with our kids, not just survive our children, but that we can do this. But to do it, we have to have help. And I would love to do that for you. So please take advantage of that right now. As I said, I'm going to take the first 20 people who respond on this video, click the link, schedule a time with me where we can sit down together and work on a personalized step-by-step plan for you, and that will help you first and then your child, so that you can do this long game in a way that you both can win. So I would love to have that opportunity to help you end ODD parenting burnout now. Hope to see you then.